This is a highlight video from an open race I did at Daytona Sandown on Tuesday evening. Daytona don't usually do open races and things like that on Tuesdays, but I'm really glad they did because it was a really nice evening and perfect weather for go karting, perfect conditions. I've mentioned this before, but whilst I do really enjoy open races, it always is a bit harder for me to be competitive in them because of my weight. I'm a heavyweight driver. I'm roughly 200 pounds, which is just over sort of 14 stone, 90 odd kilos, 92 kilos, I think, when he gets it out. And of course, open races don't have weight divisions, which makes it that much harder. But having said that, I do win the odd one, and I always hope to be competitive, and at the very least, sort of to have a good race. When I arrived for this one, I immediately realised that it was going to be a really really tough race just because of the standard of people that had turned up. Yeah, there's a group of sort of slim built guys with their own sort of personalised kits and GoPros and things like that. And whilst that isn't always a sign that someone's good, it's usually a pretty good indicator. I also saw that a couple of female carters who are seriously good and who I know of, both of them had turned up to race. Amelia Wolf, I know of because she competes against my fiance in the Jamie Chadwick karting series, and Amelia's been very very quick. She's currently leading the series. She's won multiple rounds, and I'd say she's odds-on favourite to win that championship. Claudia Lance Jones, pictured here with Jamie Chadwick, is a former track employee at Daytona Sandown, which always gives you a big advantage of the track. She's raced cars in the past and former Formula Women finalist, and she's got her own website, which is always an indicator of some degree of talent. Yes, both girls are very established and seriously quick. And unfortunately for me, about half my weight, and that does make it harder to be competitive. But I was very curious to see just how far off them I would be, and it was a seriously stacked field. There was a lot of people with their own suits and GoPros and things like that. I was chatting to a guy before who was telling me about his YouTube channel and stuff, so I knew it was going to be a very very tough race. And not to harp on about my weight too much, but I knew I was definitely the heaviest driver in the field, so I knew it was going to be tough. And like I was joking to my fiance via text before, I said I'm not sure I really want to film this race. I film myself sort of coming like 10th out of 13 or something like that, but. It does make it a fun challenge when you've got a good lineup. Definitely more of a sense of achievement when you can beat people that are more established. D-Max karts and tracks like Daytona Sandown in general tend to attract a very good standard of drivers. You have to be of a certain competency level to state that you're a certain competency level to be allowed to drive the D-Max. And tracks like Daytona Sandown, high-profile tracks, very well-established tracks, they do attract a good standard of driver. So the standard always tends to be pretty high in D-Max races. But having said that, like that guy that just spun off there, you do sometimes as well get people that maybe they're regular karters and things like that, but they're not sort of competitive karters. They don't compete in championships or things like that, and they're a little bit less experienced than people like myself or some of the others in this race that regularly take part in championships. So I always think that's something to be aware of and respectful of. There are going to be people out there on the track that maybe aren't quite as quick. So you have to kind of watch out for them and be aware of them. And in qualifying, it's something you have to try and do to you have to be aware of so you can get a lap in. You can see there someone's had a big crash, and that was actually quite a nasty crash. I remember you can't really see it because the quality on the footage isn't that super amazing. But they'd gone almost right through the barrier. It looked like quite a nasty crash. So I hope they were okay. But the session wasn't red flag or anything, so I assume they were. But yeah, like I was saying, you have to be kind of aware that there's going to be people of different standards in open races and different abilities. Like I can't stand YouTubers like Cameron Daz who refer to backmarkers as NPCs. I think that's really really pathetic. And for all you know, they're just less experienced at karting. That's all it is. For all you know, the person you're overtaking might be a brain surgeon or something like that. Or perhaps they're just not keen on wasting huge amounts of money just trying to get an adrenaline fix. Yeah, I was feeling pretty good at this point. The cart felt very good. Apparently, all the D-Max fleet had just been fitted with new Dunlop tyres, so the grip felt excellent, and it felt like I was going very well. I'd caught up to someone who was sort of one of the faster ones in the session, and I overtook him fairly straightforwardly. And Daytona have installed these wonderful little panels. You can just see it there. Unfortunately, because of the footage quality, you can't see what it actually says on it. But it was telling me my lap times. It was also telling me that I was P3. I did not expect to be that far up, so I was really really pleased. But you can see someone overtaking me there, and that is Claudia. When I saw that it said I was P3, I correctly guessed that it was Claudia and Amelia that were the two faster ones. And she overtook me just after a yellow flag, but you can see she's absolutely flying away. And I wanted to try and see if I could keep with her, which I could a little bit, but yeah, I could see she was pulling away. Obviously, particularly on the straights, but she's very very experienced and very very fast. So she got away from me quite quickly in qualifying. So I knew there was no chance of pole position, put it that way. But I was pretty confident I could keep P3. My lap times were fairly consistent, but as you can see there, I was getting a lot of traffic. But I was keeping P3, and I kept P3 right for the majority of the session. So I was fairly confident I would start in P3. You might be able to see ahead of me there. There is more traffic in front of me, and it's part of the skill of open races is to try and sort of navigate the slower drivers or the less experienced drivers that you get turning up, because you try and get a clean lap in on a crowded track. And you'll see in a sec, just how crowded it can get, and it can be very, very difficult. But I'm quite good at getting through traffic fast, because I started competitive karting in open sport, 50-lap team sport races. So me and my fiance got very, very good at getting through traffic quickly. So I got through these guys relatively fast. But unfortunately, there was a yellow flag on my last lap, and I could see on the little sort of the board on my kart that I dropped to fifth. Right on I think the sort of second from last lap, and then we had a yellow flag on the last lap, so I couldn't respond. So you see the guy in front of me, I think he qualified third. He's very happy, doing a little happy dance there. But that was a bit frustrating. So I started fifth out of 13, and I definitely felt I could have had third if it hadn't been for the yellow flag on the last lap, because I couldn't respond. I saw myself drop to fifth and then had no chance to respond because of the yellow flag. So started P5. This was quite an interesting moment. I saw Claudia talking to the marshal about her kart as we lined up just before the start. I assume that's what she was doing. And then as we went round on formation, because you go round on formation until you enter the sort of start-finish straight, and you can see that Claudia suddenly veers into the pits, presumably to change kart, because she must have had a kart issue. But this causes confusion, and with the karters in front and also myself, we were sort of wondering, is the start going to be aborted? But I just thought, I'm just going to watch the lights, and you can see the light went green there, and it caught out the guy in front of me, because he just didn't move, he didn't react at all. And you have to leave a one kart space before the light goes green, but once the light goes green, you're entitled to race. And like I say, he just didn't react, so he got caught out there, and I was able to go to the grass a little bit, but I was able to immediately jump into to third place. So that's Amelia out in the lead, and you can see second place immediately goes for a move up the inside, but I think possibly he had slightly cold tyres still, but he span right in front of me, and I kind of made the wrong decision in that moment. I went to the right. I think I should have gone to the left, and I very nearly got stuck, but luckily I didn't. He put on the brakes, and I was able to get past, and I think the group behind actually then got caught up in it, because I then ended up with a nice little gap, a nice little cushion to the guy in third place. So that had all worked out really well, but it was a race full of surprises, because you can just see there that just been released out of the pits just ahead of me in a brand new kart was Claudia. So having qualified second, Claudia had obviously had to change kart and was now right at the back, and the best part of a lap down. And she'd just been released, obviously, because she's in a new kart. She's on completely cold tyres. And the two sort of most important things in karting are power and grip. There's two things you most want. And obviously Claudia, being so much lighter, had the power still, and she had the straight line speed. But at this moment, on completely cold tyres, she was lacking in grip, and I could see she was struggling for grip. She was having to make little corrections and battling the kart a bit with those cold tyres. So at that moment, she was actually holding me up a little bit, but I knew it was just a matter of time before her tyres got warm again. The kart got warm, and she would zoom off into the distance. She'd been over a second a lap quicker than me in qualifying, and you can see here that straight line at speed advantage, how much she pulls away on the straights. A bit worried that she was going to cost me time here, and that potentially third place would catch me up, but Claudia did a great job, because you can see the kart starts to get warm quite quickly, and she immediately sort of gets back into her groove, and as soon as the kart's warm, she begins to pull away very fast. And it's a hard situation to be in. It's why I don't really like to change kart unless I absolutely have to, because I've been in that situation before myself a couple of times where I've had a kart issue and I've had to change kart, and you come out on a completely cold kart on cold tyres, and everyone else's tyres are warm, and it's very, very difficult. Yeah, like I said, she did a great job of getting back up to pace really quickly, and zoomed off into the distance, never to be seen again. Or so I thought. It had all gone really well at this point. I was absolutely delighted to be up in second in such a high-class field. I really hadn't expected that. I had not expected to be doing this well. And I had a nice sort of 5.5 second gap to the guy in third place. And I was able to keep that gap fairly steady. He wasn't really able to close in on me, which meant that we were probably roughly about the same speed. So I was really enjoying this race, and as I mentioned, felt like it was going really well. I just was sort of focused on trying to maintain my speed. I really enjoy racing at Daytona Sandown. It's one of those tracks where the corners sort of flow into each other really nicely, and I felt like I was getting into a good groove and posting consistent lap times. The manager had mentioned before that it was very good temperature for karting, very good conditions. I mean, my best ever lap time at Daytona Sandown in the D-Max is a 46.3, and I was lapping in the kind of late 47s, early 48. So I don't think it was the absolute best conditions I'd ever driven or anything like that. But it was it was nice and cool and dry, and probably the best conditions I'd driven in at Sandown for a reasonable time. So as I mentioned before, my main focus was just trying to keep this nice gap to the guy behind me, and I caught up to some back markers, and it was a bit concerning because I saw they were battling, but that guy let me straight through, and then I got past the other guy fairly fast as well. You might be wondering why the size of the video keeps changing, why sometimes it's a bit more zoomed in and sometimes it's not. So am I. I'm really not a good video editor, it's not my forte at all. I find YouTube videos a bit of a hassle to make, which is why I don't make many of them. So I definitely struggled a bit with the format, and the footage does not look as clear as it did on the laptop, but there we go, it is what it is. See, this yellow flag felt like it came at the worst possible time because we're right near the end of the race, and it cut my lead down from about 5 seconds to, I think, 2.5 seconds, something like that, because I got caught up in it, but then the guy in third place didn't. Then as I attempted to lap the back marker, he moved across to block me, which was really annoying. Like, I shouldn't get frustrated. Like, it's not Formula One. There's no blue flag system or anything like that. He's entitled to race if he wants to. But obviously, it is a bit frustrating when back markers choose to battle you. You do get it in public races, but I wouldn't expect it so much in a D-Max race. Because people do have to be more experienced. But you can see that he's making it deliberately very difficult, and he's braking a bit unpredictably. So I went into the back of him there, and it did cost me a fair bit of time. As I said, the gap did drop to about 2 seconds for a little bit after this, but then I think third place must have been caught up in an instant. Something must have happened to him because suddenly the gap went from about 2 seconds to about over 30 seconds. It does always make me chuckle a little bit when back markers choose to race you like that. I recently won an open race a 50-lap open race at Team Sport Mitcham, and because it's electric karts there, they don't have enough power to the whole 50 laps, so you have to swap karts, come into the pits and swap karts halfway through the race. As we were let out for the second half of the race, a guard just lapped, insisted that he be let out ahead of me, as he thought he was sort of winning the race. And actually at that point I had lapped him a few times, so I do always kind of wonder what they think is happening when the same people sort of overtake them again and again. But this guy I'm overtaking here, he'd actually just been given a warning for aggressive driving, so it was a bit of a nervous moment going past him. I wondered if he was going to do something a bit unpredictable or be aggressive or something, but he didn't. He was fine. I got through without any issue. It always is a bit nerve-wracking situations like that, particularly when you're doing well. I mean, I've lost races before where I've been taken out by a back marker, and it is incredibly frustrating when that happens. But, it's part and parcel of rental karting. You do have to just sort of take it on the chin. So we're coming right up to the end of the race at this point, and I really felt I had second place in the bag. Obviously, Amelia had a massive lead, but I even started to think, well, maybe something will happen to her cart and I can scrape an unlikely win, but sadly it wasn't to be. I then started to notice that someone was actually catching me at quite a fast rate. And that really confused me because I couldn't work out who that could be, and the screen wasn't very helpful. It wasn't really telling me good information at that point. You can see going up my inside there is Claudia. So having been released from the pits almost an entire lap down, she was now fully up to speed on warm tyres and lapping the best part of a second and a half a lap quicker than me. This was the second from last lap of the race, and as she'd just passed me, she'd actually just taken second place off me. Literally a lap and a half from the end. So massive fair play to her for making back all that time. That's an incredible drive. She set the fastest lap of the race as well, and as I said, she was lapping consistently about a second and a half a lap quicker than me. And while weight is a really big factor, I would say probably the difference between someone of my weight and someone of her weight is probably, I would say, kind of very unscientifically working that. I'd say it's probably just over a second a lap difference that makes, but it's definitely not a second and a half. I wouldn't say for a minute that's all weight. That's a skill. She's a very, very skillful driver, and that was a really excellent drive to recover like that. It was a real shame she had a cart issue actually, because it would have been really interesting to see who would have won out of her and Amelia. I think that would have been a really interesting battle. So it's a bit of a shame really, but there we go. These things happen in karting. But like I say, in terms of my own result, I was really, really pleased with this. I had not expected to do so well. I think for someone of my weight and experience, I did about as well as I could have done, really, and I certainly hadn't expected to get on the podium. So I was really, really pleased to finish third. I was kind of due a good result in karting. I've had a few sort of negative experiences lately, so I was pleased to have a fun experience and a good result. Us poor blokes, we always had football and motor racing, didn't we? But then the girls won the Euros when the men couldn't, and now the girls have started taking over motor racing. But no, it's great to see more quick girls turning up and winning things, and I think Daytona have been really good at spearheading getting more women into motorsport through things like the Jamie Chadwick series. So it's great to see. That's the third place trophy. So I'm very happy with that, and that's a nice way to end the video. Well, hopefully be on a karting track again in the not too distant future. But yeah, that was a very fun race. Very enjoyed.